right, everybody, welcome back. We are on the home stretch here, coming into the end of the quarter. And so with this video lecture and kind of the subsequent video lectures, what we're going to focus on is a lot of reminders, because the last part of the quarter, we're going to be bringing together all of the things that we've been working on this quarter. So the grammar, style, writing process, emails, cover letters, resumes, all of that stuff. So what I wanted to start with is a reminder of a lot of different parts that we've been working on. So think of this as kind of a refresher. So we're going to be bringing together all of our lessons, as I mentioned, for the final. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that's going to look like. It's going to involve a hypothetical situation. You're going to find a new job post to tailor your things to. And I'll talk about why that is in a later video lecture. So how things work together. Remember that an email, the purpose is to convey a small amount of information clearly and effectively. A resume highlights your relevant experience and education, and a cover letter explains how your experience best suits the job at hand. Now, one of the things to think about here is that in the pursuit of applying for a job, you're probably going to need all of these components. You may need to send an email to say, hey, I'm applying for this job. And then in the attachments, you might have a resume or a cover letter. That's very common. You might also have a situation where you submit a resume and a cover letter, but you want to follow up, or perhaps you even need to write an email to ask clarifying questions about some part of the application. So things to remember, just at the outset here. Business writing is clear and effective. This is what we spent the first 2 or 3 weeks working on, is really grammar and concise sentences and things like that. So clear and effective, avoiding wordiness, using a tone appropriate to the task at hand. Again, taking into account your audience, whoever that is for your particular email. Now, in part of that is to really remember your audience. Audience awareness is key here. A lot of the people that you're writing emails to are busy. They're focused on specifics. And we might even consider the fact that if they are receiving applications for a particular job, they might be getting 30, 40, 50, maybe even 100 applications. So an email may or may not be important, or might bug them, things like that. And then the third thing to remember is we want to acknowledge the task and purpose. We want to make sure that our reader knows what the immediate goal is. We don't want to leave any ambiguity or uncertainty in what we are writing. So let's start with kind of basic grammar reminders. And I don't have a meme here because memes. I'm running out of memes, folks. So grammar mechanics. So first and foremost, we want to go back and review, if necessary, the use of appropriate grammar. That might be commas, semicolons, em dashes, adverbs, transition words, whatever it is. Remember that we're using the active tense. So again, active tense is I applied for the job rather than the job was applied for by me. We want to make sure that we're formal, we're avoiding cliches, slang, unnecessary jargon, that we're spelling out any acronyms, anything that we might be using. We want to avoid any unnecessary adverbs, things like really or very or incredibly. And as a sort of sidebar or subnote to that, I would really suggest you avoid any of those tautologies where we are repeating ourselves. So things like he applied for the job himself. That could simply be he applied for the job. Focus on specifics. So that includes word choice and details. Again, as we saw with one of the readings from Harvard Business Review, it's better to be specific and say pelican as opposed to bird. Those specifics are going to make a big difference for our reader. And then lastly, before we hit that send button, we're going to make sure that we have checked everything visually. So we read through, maybe read out loud that cover letter, that email, that resume, just to make sure that we haven't missed anything. And then the last thing that we want to do is use a grammar checker of some sort, or have somebody else look at it for us. Now, again, we don't want to just rely on the grammar checker, particularly when you're writing, say, your resume and you're using those short bulleted lists. Grammar checkers might call those out as being sentence fragments, as in incomplete sentences. And you know what you're doing, you know that you're doing it intentionally, so you can just go ahead and bypass those suggestions. Now, email reminders. When it comes to emails, we spent a good amount of time on this, and it's going to be situation dependent, right? The first thing, and we'll kind of go through the list here in a second, is to really ask yourself whether or not email is the best vehicle for communication. Now, for the final assignment, I'm going to ask you to write an email. So that part is kind of done for you, but you should still be thinking about why email was the best vehicle for communication. And a little pro tip, in this case, it's because it's probably inappropriate to instant message somebody about a job via LinkedIn, or to try and get in touch with them some other way like that. Then the next thing to think about is the purpose of that email. Why are you sending the email? Get that nice and clear in your head before you start to draft your email. Who is your audience? Now, in this case, for an email to an employer, potential employer, we want to think about what their role is. Are they a hiring manager? Are they a recruiter? Who is that person? And kind of what are they doing? Again, if they're reviewing 10 to 100 different applications, we want to be very careful with that email to make sure we're not getting bogged down. We're not asking for too much. What do you want the audience to know, do, or believe? Now, again, pro tip, in this case, for kind of our final, well, not kind of our final, for our final, it's going to be sharing information. And again, you want them to know that you are a professional and that you are qualified for this particular job. Additional reminders, make sure you're using that short, appropriate subject line. And I'm going to leave that up to you, but do take into account the situation. Use the correct greeting for the audience. That's number 6 here. Is it a specific person? Is it the hiring manager? Is it human resources? That is important because we want to start off on the best possible footing. Use short, concise paragraphs, maybe with bullet points. You don't want to get too crazy. You just want to get to the point. And if that means using bullet points, go ahead. By all means, use bullet points. They are appropriate for business email. Contain a specific ask or action that the audience should take. In this case, again, pro tip, it might be as simple as, please review my attached documents and let me know if you need any additional information. Again, you probably have to reword, but something along those lines would be fine. Then make sure that you're containing a sign-off, including their correct contact information, your email, your phone number, things like that, so that they can get in touch with you. Again, one thing that I like to do is keep everything nice and consistent. So my email, my resume, my cover letter are all going to have kind of the same format, the same information. Make sure that you use the same email address for each of those contacts. And again, as an aside, make sure that it's not, something that's your gamer tag or something like that that is going to be informal, because that's probably going to be a deal breaker right out of the gate. And then lastly, for emails, make sure that if you're including any attachments, that you reference them in your email. Let your reader know, hey, I've attached my resume, I've attached my cover letter, as you mentioned in your job description, whatever it is, so that they know that those things are there. And again, little reminders on that. Make sure that your attachments are in a readable format. PDF can be good, a doc can be good, whatever it is, and make sure it is the correct, most recent version, because the last thing that you want to do is have to send a follow-up email that says, hey, I attached the wrong document, or hey, I forgot to attach a document. that could be a deal breaker right out of the gate, but at the very least, it's going to set the wrong tone. And that's what we don't want to do. We want to make sure that from the get-go, from the outset, our reader knows, hey, this is a person that has their stuff together, they've done their homework, they know what they're doing, and I could trust them if they were a part of my team. So there we go. I'll go ahead and pause this email. I'll go ahead and stop this video here. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, jokes, memes, or recipes, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll talk to you all in the future.